and Haris Harun
What do you play this match?
just having the toss, deciding which ends. Talking of ends, we could well have penalties at the end of all of this. If it is still a draw at the end of the 90, then extra time, we will go to penalties. Singapore make more changes than Indonesia from that first leg. In come Amy Reka, Hafiz Noor, Zulkarnain Susliman and Hami Shahin. So 4 changes in all for Singapore. They too are going to go with a 5 at the back, 5-4-1. Slight tweak from the last game where it was a 5-3-2. And it's Haris Harun in the middle of that defense. A tweak that they had in the second half of the game against Indonesia would seem to bear fruit. The players that make way, Nazrul Nazari, the right back, as well as Iksan Fandi and Faris Ramli. Perhaps the 2 changes that will have a few Singaporeans a little bit concerned. Zulfami Arifin was taken off in the middle of that game against Indonesia in the first leg. Kasim Al-Hatmi, the referee, Omani referee, the last referee in the previous game, came under scrutiny for decisions, penalty that wasn't given. And there's been plenty of talk from the coaches here about asking for VAR in the next edition. Let's see if that happens. But here in the here and now, Roshan, what do you make of the 2 lineups tonight?
I think for Indonesia, it's one we pretty much expected. You know, they've done well. They found pretty much a system that they're going with that has suited them. And again, when you look at the lineups that they've got, there's an opportunity for, as we said, the flexibility that they have with Alfiandra, for example, can slot into a back 3. They can also go with a back 4 and push Alfiandra forward into that midfield to play alongside Rahmadi Rianto and Ricky Kambuaya. So there's flexibility in that lineup, and it's the same with Singapore as well. A bit more surprised with the changes that they've made, but I think they've perhaps had a few fitness issues. The game's, you know, coming thick and fast in the knockout stages.
Well, almost immediately, Hafiz Noor searing down that left-hand side. He's got the pace, hasn't he, Hafiz Noor?
He's been looking confident, hasn't he? And not Hafiz Noor, I'm referring to the man on the bench just now. Tatsuma Yoshida is smiling all the way through.
It's a different kind of outlook because he's had a tough time, hasn't he, in this tournament?
Yeah, and he's got a big smile on his face. You know, we saw him as the teams were coming out for their warm-up. He was looking nice and relaxed, nice and confident. And you know, we talk about the changes that are being made. You see that the goals that have been conceded in this competition, the passing accuracy so far, things like the crossing accuracy, not too much of a difference between these 2 sides.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, every stat there, and there's Shin Tae-yong, the opposite number, who's also quite the character himself. Everything was close except for goals scored. 14 for Indonesia, 8 for Singapore, but they've had almost exactly the same number of shots, which means that Singapore have been pretty good at the conversion rate. If you want to look at that, Amy Reka, the man who's leading the line for Singapore, had one really great effort, didn't he, against Nadio in that first leg. And talking of forwards, Indonesia had 3 different forwards. They tried 3 different combinations, didn't they? Ezra Walian was yanked off after 34 minutes, having been brought on.
Yeah, at half-time, I guess it just wasn't quite working out for him. But good to see he still retained the faith of his coach.
Here's Shadan Sulaiman for Singapore. That's a delightful ball up to his club teammate Hafiz Noor, who doesn't get the better of the Indonesian skipper Asnawi. We know about the pace of this Indonesian side that has caused so many problems, and now, Roshan, they've enhanced it. Ramai Rumakek.
Yep.
What a paceman he is.
A very direct player, number 20, on the left-hand side of this Indonesian attack.
Poor old Irfan, huh? Getting dropped like that. I mean, that is the kind of depth. Force that. There's Nur Adam Abdullah, preferred in that left wing-back position. First international start in that last game, and has retained his place. have rotated the wing backs a little bit in this tournament, Singapore. Now Siaran Sulaiman. Trying to slide that into Amy Reka. And featured for Singapore. Now he's got to start here in the semi-final. Big moment for him. Here's Pratama Arhan.
There's fresh legs for Singapore, especially in those forward positions with Amy and Hafiz Noor coming in. Interesting to see how they get on, and I know there's a lot of talk on social media about Singapore's lineup and how people weren't sure with the changes that were made. I mean, he's got a squad, Tatsuma, and he's been very consistent with his messaging around it, in that he said, I trust every member of the squad.
It's a delightful ball from Hamid Shahin. Reka, by the way, he's got plenty of pace about him as well. Had a standout season last campaign for Geylang International. 10 goals for him. His best return.
Yeah, I mean, if we see Amy Reka initially making that run in behind, got cut out, and then Hamid Shahin. It's a really good shielding of the ball by Alfeandra, who looks to just be occupying a central midfield position alongside Rahmani Rianto. And what that means is it's given Ricky Kambuaya a bit more freedom to drift across those midfield areas. Here he is on the right-hand side.
Rianto, distinct with that tucked-in shirt. Nice touch on to Song Wei-yong. I think seems to pass through Siaran Sulaiman in a quarterback type of role. Pratama, quick pass on from him. Here's Ramai Rumakek. Now Witan Sulaiman. Still Witan, who was brilliant in that last game. Witan. Bit of a plea in vain there to the referee.
Yeah, another player who's very difficult to pin down. Witan Sulaiman talked about his intelligence and his awareness of the game. Just wonderful, he gets himself into areas where he knows that, he can pick the ball up here, cause lots of issues in behind the Singapore midfield. And again there, he picked it up behind that midfield and looked to try and run at the defense.
Showing a little bit too much of the ball there. Irfan, here come Indonesia. Witan Sulaiman slips the ball through. And that was a poor miss right in front of goal by Kambuaya.
I think it might have taken a deflection off Haris. It was so important for the Singapore captain to come across. Irfan just getting caught out by Ramai Rumakek there. I love this. This is intelligence from Witan Sulaiman. Understanding of, he could have perhaps taken a shot on himself, but he thinks, Ricky Kambuaya has made a good run. Use him. Nice little reverse ball into the number 15, and it was so important for Haris to come across. That's one of the benefits of having that back three. An additional man in the center of defense.
Corner for Indonesia, first one of the game. Important intervention there by Haris Harun, who they've preferred in that back three now. Here is Witan then with the corner. Don't to get past the first man. Witan Sulaiman again. Alfreandra Dewanga. Pratama Arhan. We know we can hit them. Scored a great goal against Malaysia. Slip through. There is Rumah Ramakek.